how much has this season affected or impacted what we're going to see on the recruiting trail for the Oklahoma Sooners moving forward? We'll discuss that among other things in our mailbag segment. But coming up next, we're going to talk about what Todd McShay and Ryan Russillo had to say about one Bill Beatenbow here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And we're free and available on all platforms. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Jay, there's been a lot of talk about Bill Beatenbow and his security with the Oklahoma Sooners. And I get it. It's not been a banner year for the Oklahoma Sooners offensive line. It's been dinged up. The transfer portal additions haven't necessarily panned out exactly like you would have hoped through 8 games in the 2024 season. But let's be real. This is not a man going anywhere. Brent Venables gave him the vote of confidence in his Tuesday press conference, saying he's one of the best in the industry. And ESPN NFL draft analyst guru Todd McShay echoes those sentiments on the Ryan Russillo show earlier this week.
Yeah, I listen to Ryan Russillo religiously. He's one of my favorite personalities out there just because he makes me think about a lot of stuff. And he has Todd McShay on every Monday. And so on the Monday show, Todd McShay, they were talking about Oklahoma. Of course, they're like, yeah, Oklahoma right now is a joke. Not sure why the offensive line is as bad as it is. But Todd McShay interrupted and was like, I'll say this. Bill Beatenbow, their offensive line coach, he's regarded as the best developer of offensive linemen in NFL circles. Everyone praises Bill Beatenbow. And I know that everyone's like, oh, well, he's living off of his old Joe Moore award-winning line and all this. If you realize it, both of his left and right tackles have both been drafted 2 years in a row.
It's crazy.
And having left tackle or right tackle going in the draft in the first round in back-to-back years. That's not writing off 2017. And those dudes are starting. Anton Harrison's playing a lot. You saw a lot of Tyler Guyton playing for the Cowboys. They're young, they're still raw, and they're playing for teams that are kind of questionable, but that's not the point. The point is, he's getting dudes to the league. Andrew Rain is on the practice squad for the Panthers. He was actually on the depth chart until he got hurt. Now he's on the practice squad. McKay Matower, practice squad for the Chiefs. His guys end up in the league. So, for us, and they even said, that's what Todd McShay said, and actually Ryan Russillo says that, yeah, every time you look at Oklahoma, there's at least 2 dudes on that roster that's ready to go play in the league. The reason why we ain't got that now is because all of the upperclassmen that we have only been under Bill Beatenbow for 6 months.
Right.
So this is not your typical dude's been here for a few years. Sexton's been hurt, so he doesn't technically count. He's been hurt off and on the last 2 years, and now he's hurt again. Right? You've got Tarquin, first time here. Waywu, first time here. Hickman, first time here. I did a video on it earlier this week. We talked about it here on the show before. And John, that's the thing I don't get that people don't understand. All the upperclassmen that we had that were underneath Beatenbow, they transferred out. And I don't think they transferred out because they wanted to. I think it was a situation where we were like, we're going to go ahead and try and just run it with our younger guys. And unfortunately, we went through 8 different offensive line combinations now over 9 games because of injuries. No, we have not played the 9th game yet. That's this weekend. But we're going to have another new combination in that game. We got snake bitten, and it's all unfortunate. But don't sleep on Bill Beatenbow's capability of building an offensive line when he has guys that are actually flipping healthy. Believe me when I say, next season's line is going to look a lot different. The young guys, Fogier, as well as Fasusi and Afalava, when they come in, they're going to push the other young guys we have, like B.J. Brooks, Isaiah Autry, as well as Akinkumi, Sosa. You're going to see all those guys look a lot different. So, not to go too long on you, John, I just need people to understand and understand this.
Reach.
The dude knows what he's doing. The problem is he's got a lot of young guys that's trying to figure it out fast because some guys were not supposed to play this early. If you had Sexton and Taylor out there early like we were hoping for, because Taylor's still hurt, probably would have been a much different story this entire season. But unfortunately, as you're seeing, Troy Everett is doing very well at center. If we had him from jump, I think this entire season looks a little bit different because the quarterbacks would have a lot more time.
And there'd be a lot better communication throughout the season when you have a guy
Yeah.
like Troy Everett with you from week one. Remember, he was dealing with an offseason injury that kept him out from pretty much all of fall camp.
He did.
He only really got back into the lineup in the last few weeks. And it's no coincidence that the Oklahoma run game has actually started to improve as Troy Everett's gotten back into the lineup and been better. It's easy to discount what's happened this year and just kind of want to throw Bill Beatenbow under the bus and say it's time for him to go. I totally can understand where people are coming from. But again, you want to take a whole body of work and you want to understand that people still have a lot of respect for him and for what he's able to do. I look at a guy like Wanye Morris, right? Didn't really play much at Tennessee, if at all. I can't even remember if he had. I'm sure he had some snaps, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't significant. Transfers over to Oklahoma, goes into the third round of the NFL draft to the Chiefs. Like that's a success story for Bill Beatenbow. Tyler Guyton, we've talked about that one ad nauseum. The dude was playing tight end just a couple years before he transferred to Oklahoma to play offensive tackle. And then he goes in the first round of the draft. Anton Harrison, a dude that played really early in his career with the Sooners back in the 2020 season, started a lot of games for him and just slowly by slowly kept getting better and better, and then ended up a first round NFL draft pick as well. So, man, listen, there are misses that are on his docket, no doubt about it. At the same time, there's a lot of big wins, and given the turnover that you had, I think it was easy to expect there not to be much of a drop off.
Right.
But maybe that was unreasonable. Probably that was unreasonable. And again, all the injuries that you dealt with definitely had an impact. Nobody's going to feel sorry for Oklahoma to have these excuses. Nobody's going to feel sorry for Oklahoma having all these injuries, but it's a reality. And no good team can turn over their entire offensive line, deal with injuries for both tackles, 2 to 3 centers, and a guard, and not be impacted. Much like the wide receiver room. You can't go 5 deep and not be impacted with all the injuries that they've had. So I'm still on Team Bill Beatenbow. I still believe that Oklahoma will develop. And, I mean, we've seen guys like Heath Ozida get better as he's gotten more and more playing time. Jake Taylor, when he's gotten out there and he's been able to play, he's been all right. You know, Jacob Sexton, same. Like, have they been elite players? No, but this is their first foray as starters along an offensive line in SEC play. It's a developmental game. You want them to be developed a little bit faster, but they're not quite there yet. But maybe they're better in 2025 if they can stay healthy. Now that's the big key, right? Got to find guys that can stay available for a 12, 14, hopefully 16, 17 game season.
Shout out to Favichi Wewu. He has had his 568 snaps. He has the most snaps on our offensive line. He has been nails. He's been consistent. And he's getting better and better week over week. And like Dave Eicher talked about, his technique, he looked better. He's looking better. And so, to that, when we played Tennessee, John, Lance Hurd didn't play in that game, right? So there was a little bit of a struggle on that left tackle side, right? Because he was hurt. Then their right tackle got hurt. What happened to Nico after that? We were getting to him a lot, weren't we?
Yeah.
That tells you every team has a drop-off. When you get to this, and Brent Venables said it. There's a reason why 1s are 1s, 2s are 2s, and 3s are 3s. Because sometimes those 2s and 3s still need to get their technique down. They're still not consistent enough play in and play out to be able to do things. So, yeah, we're over here defending Bill Beatenbow. We definitely are, because I think y'all don't get that there's a zero coach out there that has dealt with the injuries we've dealt with that would have been able to make chicken sandwiches out of this chicken poo. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. It's got to continue to get better. They've got to hit on this next recruiting class. And really, you got to, the guys that are in the 2023 class, the Logan Howlands, Heath Ozidas, they got to start developing and becoming a significant part of that offensive line next year. Same with your 2024 guys, EPL, Josh Isosa, Daniel Akinkumi, Eugene Brooks. They've got to be significant players on the depth chart next year and pushing for big snaps. And when you go into the portal, you got to hit on those guys. You can't afford to have dudes kind of working their way through the season. They've got to be ready to go from the jump for Oklahoma to have a chance to compete next year.
Unless you find someone that's like an instant starter, which rarely hit the portal.
Yep.
You gotta make sure that you built your stable up, which luckily we have now built our stable up.
Yeah, so you're going to have a lot of guys back. The only guys that probably won't be back, Michael Tarkin. Maybe
Tarkin and Hickman are your only two that are gone, guaranteed.
And Hickman's only played in 4 games, so there's a chance that maybe I think that's right. I'd have to look at it real quick, but I think he's only played in 4 games.
I think he has only played in 4 games,
and so
which is
he
crazy.
could technically redshirt for you coming into next year, and then you're looking at having some pretty solid center depth going into 2025. Again, it's good to have depth. And I think that's a guy with a lot of experience that can help you. If he can stay healthy, that's been a key.
That's the tough part.
Key element for Oklahoma's offense in total is just dudes staying healthy. Doesn't matter what position you're talking about, guys just got to be healthy. I'm looking at right now, according to Pro Football Focus, he's only played in 4 games, so technically he could redshirt this year if he's still
a redshirt senior, so he can't technically redshirt, but he does have his COVID year if he wants to use it,
or he could medical redshirt.
Yeah, he can medical.
Eligibility rules in the NCAA don't matter anymore. Dudes are playing 8 years of college football, so who cares? So who wants to come back? Anybody want to come back? You're welcome to come back. So, but it's got to get better. Offensive line has to get better. Bill Beatenbow is not naive to that reality as well, and so they'll go into the 2025 offseason looking to improve the offensive line any which way that they can. Has Oklahoma done enough on offense to secure Joe Jon Finley's job? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.